It's really funny because I didn't click this. So today's speaker is Lonny Grafman, and I totally know Lonny. I just didn't realize it when I saw the name and didn't put two and two together because why would I do that? We're going to connect his computer, but in the meantime,
Move this chair.
we're going to let Maggie move things and make an introduction.
All right. So many of you do know Lonny, and he's going to be talking to us about water. And clean water is probably the most important thing in the world. Think about it. And it's one of the areas, water and sanitation is one of the 6 areas of focus for Rotary. And I feel like it's most important because it impacts all the other areas. Peace and conflict resolution. There's a lot of fighting that happens, and it's going to be more and more about who has access to resources, and water is a big one. Disease prevention and treatment, maternal and child health, basic education, literacy, and economic and community development. Those are the other areas of focus, and I really feel like access to safe water has an impact on all of those. Without access to water, there are children around the world who may not be able to go to school because they're busy collecting water for their family, or women who are collecting water for their family. And sometimes these women in war zones are collecting water, women and young girls, and they're being assaulted in the process of going out far away. So water to me just is so important. In this country we just assume we're going to have good water. We think we have access to safe water, and for the most part we do, but then you look at Flint, what happened in Flint, Michigan, and we realize it's just not guaranteed. So you know Lonny. I don't know how many of you read his bio that was sent out. If you read that, you know he probably never sleeps. If he does sleep, he's probably still trying to figure out his next great idea. So we made a donation to his work for in Haiti, and we asked him to come today and talk to us about that. But we also asked him to come and talk to us about water catchment systems and how we might be able to integrate that technology into one of our projects locally, because there are a lot of opportunity. We get a lot of rain here, and we have opportunities, and we're hoping that maybe we can learn from him and see how we might be able to in the future put some of our resources into helping somebody locally catch water. So there we go. Lonny, you ready? Have I stalled enough?
You stalled. That was great.
All right. So, there we go, Lonny.
Hey everyone. I heard there'd be alcohol. Is that? I'm not sharing.
That bottle cost you $60,000.
I'm really excited to be here and to follow up on what we were able to use your money for. It came at a fantastic time, and most of it went to a project in Haiti, and then we had a little bit of money left over for books for some other places that I'm going to share with you. I'm going to talk mostly about the Haiti project because that's where the bulk of it went. And I have the incredible pleasure of presenting mostly slides from the person that we sent the money to, which is really exciting to me. When I worked with him 7 years ago, there was no computer and no internet and mostly no power in anywhere near him. And so for him to be able to get on a Windows 95 PC, a hacked version of my own recording, a totally legal version of Microsoft Office PowerPoint, it was really fun. I added a couple. I met this guy, Franz, 8 years ago, the last time I was working in Haiti in person, and I was incredibly impressed by him and his nascent, at the time, organization. He worked with a group of young men between the ages of 16 and 30, with him being the oldest one. And I heard stories that were kind of amazing to me. I'm going to I want to share just one and be cautious of the time. Here's the one that hit me the most. One of the young men, I was supposed to be just consulting on how you do projects. And one of the young men, his main problem was that he had to fight to walk from his community to the community center where they were working, because people thought that what he was doing was stupid. The idea of volunteering his time to his community, they thought that he should just be working and making money, as if you can't do both. And I remember being like, wow, like I have problems getting people to go do, volunteer work because it's 7 a.m. on a Friday. Okay, I had problems coming doing it's like 7 a.m. When I send you a message at like 6:30, I'm like, what time do I show up? Like that's like my big dilemma. I'm like, I gotta get up, and he has to like physically fight. And they managed to make it. They stayed as a community group, and what they ended up doing was opening an orphanage. And then at that orphanage, teaching about agriculture and business, so that the youth will be able to have food and careers as they grow up. And so these are some of his slides. This is not my clicker. This is my clicker here. They run this agricultural program. Here are some of the youth. They also have to walk sometimes 5 kilometers, between 2 and 5 kilometers, to get to this very dirty river to collect their water. So that's where all their water is coming from. So not only is it dirty, but it also is quite a distance. And so what they wanted to do was build a rainwater catchment system. This right here is probably my favorite photo of all time when it comes to my book, and it's him. This is Franz teaching his kids from the rainwater book that you all supported. It's got drawings on the board about rainwater catchment, and he's like, okay, we want to build this. And that's when I came to Rotary, or actually Rotary was like, okay, what are you doing? And so I showed a bunch of projects. This is the one they picked. They built this hole in the ground. They taught students about it. Then they started building up the walls, and then finally they got to this point. So they started there. Now they have this building, roof, underground cistern for the water, and this is the water that they're now using for their community garden. They are trying to build out more roof areas, so they'll collect even more. But it was an amazing and also slow success because the prices in Haiti kept changing so rapidly. But we were able to get the money, once you all committed to it, we were able to get the money in their hands. It was so fast, and that really helped. Franz tagged the Rotary Club on Facebook, and that's been really fun for me to watch. And then just recently, I got to watch Franz having a conversation with some of our community partners in India about their rainwater catchment system. And I was like, this is an amazing world, right? Like, here's one community I work with that makes less than $1 a day in Haiti, giving advice to another community I work with that makes less than $1 a day in northern India. And they're doing that seamlessly over the internet. I just thought it was awesome. Franz, 2 things. One, he really wants a photo of us together at the end. He's like, I sent you lots of photos. I want to see the people that donated. But also he just wanted to say thank you. He's one of those guys that just works tirelessly on his cause. If you've worked in Haiti, you've seen this thing that's really hard to watch, which is a bunch of very expensive white SUVs driving all around the country doing aid work and seeing nothing at all built. And then you meet Franz, who's like working out of a beat up shipping container, and a month later he's already he's made a stand to sell food out of, and he's educated 40 kids every single day. And it's amazing to see, a local community member who's just dedicated their life to this. And so I want to say thank you from him and from me to supporting it, so thank you. I also want to show a couple of the other places that your books went. The next big spot that there's 2 things. We were supporting this Haiti project, and we were going to send books to Puerto Rico because the massive disaster just happened there, and water was a big issue. So sent books to Puerto Rico. They built 12 systems in that many days. in Puerto Rico. And their systems, rainwater catchment systems, these are 3 different ones. What they did is this group, it was actually led by somebody who went to Humboldt State University, Miles Danforth. I don't know if any of you knew him. Romy, you might have known he was a CCAC co-director, but it was a long time ago. He was with the group, and what they did is they decided to focus just on farmers. So farms that had been destroyed by the hurricane and were trying to rebuild. So he worked with these farmers to rebuild systems. And then what we did is he went back and brought the Spanish edition of the book, which just came out. You funded it. It took us a while because after you funded it, it still took me like 2 months before we got the book published. But he brought the Spanish editions back. He had left the English editions, but you know that's only so helpful. So now all of the places, all 14 places that he worked with have a Spanish edition of the book, and they're now using that to teach other farms, because other farms are like, okay, how do you do this rainwater catchment thing? Rainwater catchment in a disaster area like this makes a lot of sense. It makes sense no matter what, but when you're in a disaster area, distributing your resource enables you to have some capacity to handle the, any devastation that comes. And so I'm really happy about that. And then there was money for 20 books, so I then sent a book to Kenya to work with Samuel. He had a digital copy of the book. He was traveling 2 kilometers with a wheelbarrow every day for water, and now he's catching all of his own rainwater. And then we also sent a copy of the book 2 copies of the book to Uganda with Joyce Plath, who some of you probably know. So I was like, all right, I got 2 more copies of the book, and that's it for the copies of the book. I'm going to quickly transition into some things that are happening in Humboldt and also rainwater catchment in general. But I will want to come back at the end and say thank you one more time, and then also maybe we can take that photo at the end of the meeting or something like that. If that's okay with you. Okay, cool. He would love that. I'm excited to post it to him and be like, look, here's us. So here's my favorite story from this week. This story isn't from this week, but the story I'm about to tell is from this week. I got back to Humboldt on Monday. I get the great pleasure of getting to travel all around the world, often in the summers, and I'm always amazed at how it's harder to get here than like anywhere else. No, we're so remote. Like there should be like people in other places just coming and helping us with like cell phone connection. We have like transportation. I definitely have never been abandoned by a bus in Mexico the way I've been abandoned by buses in Northern California. It's true. Like we could learn a lot about. Also, I've never had anyone use heroin next to me on a bus in Mexico, but I have here. We shouldn't joke about drugs, but that is the way my whole family is. I hope you don't mind at 7.
Yeah. We've been drinking all morning.
Okay. Good. I'll tell you a couple more stories then. So I stayed. Wait, we're being recorded, aren't we?
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep these stories. If I stop my story at heroin, you know that the rest. So I'm in Humboldt. I decided not to travel internationally this summer because I had the amazing opportunity to get to spend time with my family. My brother just got out of prison after 7 years, and it was an amazing experience, and I'm so excited for the way he's going, because this is what he's about now. When he went in, it wasn't what he was about. And prison has never reformed a single one of my friends. It's only made all of my friends worse. But somehow my brother got better. Right? He took the time and he used it right, and it's amazing to see him talking about how he can give back to his community. Like, I didn't think that was going to happen until he was 50. Right? And so now, like, we're scheming on like ways that we can give back, and it's totally amazing. And so, yeah, thank you. I feel incredibly lucky. And so I was like, I'm going to be in Humboldt, and that's great. I can come do this talk. On Monday, I got to do the keynote talk at the Shift conference. It was so cool to speak in my own community because the audience took over my talk at one point. Like at one point they were literally like, oh yeah, no, we did blah, 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 blah. And I just kind of stopped and they started telling the stories of what our students have been able to accomplish. This is one of the stories. Heather Nyberg at Lolita Elementary, she was at a break-off group that I got to do at the STEAM conference a year and a half ago. And she just showed up on a whim. She's like, they could have gone to any breakout group. She's like, that one looks fun. And the way I led the breakout group is I gave a really quick talk on what rainwater is and how it works. I'm going to give that one in 3 minutes here. And then I handed everyone, that was my talk, and then I just handed everyone flip chart paper and pens, and I had them all say things that they wanted to design, and then I had them break off into teams. And Heather's like, I'm going to design my school. We're 97% assisted lunch program. And we have space. Seems cool. So they drew it out with markers, and she had it, and she presented it to the group, and it was great. And now she has built all of that. They have 4,800-gallon catchment system, community garden, an orchard with 10 trees, and a pumpkin grove where the students sell pumpkins in fall to learn about that stuff. So we're doing these things. These projects I get to work on other places, we're doing them here, and I think it's incredibly exciting. And what I loved about Heather's story is that she wasn't like hell-bent on this. It wasn't like her passion. She's like rainwater catchment and like, is always studying it and making it happen. She's just like, yeah, why not? Yeah, we could do that. And then she did it, right? And I love that. So here's a little bit on rainwater. That is not the slide. That's the slide. Maggie was talking about how water is so important. This is something I think about often, which is you can live without food for 3 weeks. No problem. Right? You can actually go 5 weeks if you stay still. I've made it to 10 days, and it was surprisingly easy. 10 straight days, and I'm like, I think I could go further, right? Water, 3 days. That's it. Maybe 5 if you just don't move and you stay in the shade. That's a big difference, like that jump. Also, just to finish this off, in an extreme environment, you can go about 3 hours. Without air, about 3 minutes. I can only go 2 minutes, but a lot of people can go 3 minutes. And there's a few freaks out there who can go like 20. I don't know what they're doing. But when we're talking about resource and infrastructure, this water one becomes a lot of kind of bang for the buck, right? This is the total. That's the Earth. I just realized that I left up. I thought I switched out these slides to slides that were in English imperial units, which also means that my next slide, which was supposed to be Arcata, is actually India. Sorry. Total water. There's 1.36 billion kilometers cubed. That is the relative diameter of all the water compared to the Earth. That's the relative diameter. What's the problem with that water? It's salty, right? Like most of that water is salty. So fresh water, 2.5% of that, that's the diameter, 404 kilometers. That's the diameter of all of the that's all of the fresh water in the world that as a globe compared to our Earth. What's the problem with that water?
Disproportionately distributed.
In the air.
Oh yeah, oh thank you. That's my favorite answer, is that it's disproportionately distributed, right? Like, my take for almost every talk I ever give is we have all the technology and all the resources we need to fix the vast majority of our problems. They're just not distributed. But also, there's another reason that it's not distributed well.
Nestle owns it.
That's no, really. I mean, but some of it is like a lot of it is frozen. The stuff that isn't frozen is then being bought by corporations and also not justly distributed. In fact, I'm going to say something I'm not positive is true, but I would bet all 6 bottles of alcohol that my next statement is true. Across the world, the poorer a community is, the more it pays for its water. Not as a relative function of their income, just more. Every place I've been either pays the same or more per gallon the more poor you are. That's crazy. This is the easily available water. It's right there. That's its diameter. It is a globe from here to Carlotta. That's the diameter of all of the available fresh water in the world. So that's why rainwater. Who owns the rain? Nestle, sure. I'm going to move on past the why catch the rain and just go how to catch the rain because I only have 3 minutes. There's two main ways to break up rainwater catchment, passive and active, right? Or landscape and built. I love landscape rainwater catchment. It's where you're recharging the groundwater and you're doing it often on a large scale. That's not what my next 2.5 minutes will be about. Right? Active systems are the ones usually where you're trying to get water that you're trying to then use immediately on something from a hose. Right? You have a catchment area, this is what it looks like. You got a catchment surface, you've got a screen, you've got gutters bringing to the screen, you got this thing called a first flush, I'm going to talk about that in a second. You got more gutters or conveyance or pipe going to storage and overflow, filtration and treatment, and end use. I think most of these things probably make sense. The first flush right there is the only one that I want to describe in a little bit more detail. That's the first flush. The first few minutes of rain are the dirtiest part of rain. Most of the studies show about 90% of the dirtiness in rainwater is caught in less than the first 10 minutes of rainwater falling. That's a little bit because of what's in the air, but more so, what is it from? Yeah, it's what's on the roof, right? Like, if you're in a rural area, that's dirt and poop, because birds land in poop and they land on your roof. So don't lie to yourself and think your roof doesn't have poop on it, right? If you're in an urban setting, then it's polluted, like a lot of other pollutants, air pollution, industry, cars. So what you do is you have, one of the ways of dealing with it is you have water come into this pipe and you have a ball that floats up. And as this dirty water comes in, the ball floats higher and higher. And when the ball gets to the top, the water can now come from the roof and out to the rest of your system. Super low tech. And you can build it, almost anywhere. I had 2 graduate students from UC Davis land in Dominican Republic yesterday, and they're like, "Where are we going to buy a first flush?" I'm like, "You are just going to make it." Like, oh, yeah. And then after the rain is done, the system drains, either manually or I'm super lazy, so I just have a hole in it and it's just always draining, which means I'm losing a little bit of water while it's raining. But that's okay because catchment is rarely my problem. It's storage is my problem. Like I almost always have enough rain, almost anywhere I've been. I just don't have enough storage. So it's okay that I'm losing it while it's raining because I'm still going to fill up my end system. An average house, this is the math right here, an average house in the US catches 33 gallons of rainwater on its roof. That's the average house.
I was gonna say, that thing in front is not.
No, yeah, no, it's that one there. that doesn't catch it. We have a lot of catchment potential here in Humboldt, an incredible amount. That is the end of my 20 minutes, but I think that leaves me with time to answer questions. Is that true?
You have all the time you need for questions. Well, maybe not all the time, but question away.
Yeah, so what kind of questions do you have? Just to remind you, we talked about a lot about Haiti, a few of the places that we sent books, and then rainwater catchment systems. Yeah.
Say constructed one of these for Bayside Community Hall, how much would it cost? What would the expenses be? The non-labor expenses.
Yeah, that's a great question. And with rainwater catchment, it's a giant range for probably 3 main reasons, but only 2 that are going to apply here. One, we often get a large amount of community donations for projects like this. In part or at cost is often happens, or just in full, people give us stuff. The next question is, the next big impact on the cost is, how big does the system need to be and what is already existing? So a system that already has, ideally I'm coming into places that already have gutters, My ideal is when I come to a place that has gutters that need to be cleaned, so it's like, oh, we're already going to be successful. because we're there and we're gonna clean the gut. Like, sweet, we're already, like, success one done. And I also love places that are having a lot of erosion from the gutters, because it's like, cool, we're gonna fix that right away. No more erosion around the base of the house, the foundation of the house. That's great. If you already have all of those things, then you just need a first flush system. That's under $100, well under $100, depending on what resources you have, and then a tank. And here we have a lot of tanks. For some reason. And it's amazing how many places sell tanks that love projects that are not marijuana. I'm just unless that's the Bayside Grange's plan. I actually don't know. But for instance, the last 800-gallon system that we built here cost us less than $800. It was $500 for the tank, and then the rest was in PVC pipes and a few other. That included a garden hose too, because they wanted a garden hose attached just to the system also.
Is there a way to loop this system into the water system in the house?
There is, but it adds to your expense a lot, and it also adds to the rainwater catchment systems I built. Typically, I don't need to talk to any building inspectors. I don't need to get anything approved in most of the states I'm in now. That wasn't true when I started 20 years ago. But now, mostly, like the systems I build, no one, cool, all good. Once you tap it back into the house, that all changes. There's great examples. There's one in there's a good example in Portland. I think that maybe the BSS building at HSU is using rainwater for the toilets. Maybe it was supposed to, and now we don't talk about it because it really isn't. I'm not sure. Does that answer your question?
Yeah,
it is possible.
But it makes it a whole different process if you're.
It makes it a little bit harder because you got to tap back into the house this way. And I think that often it's worth it, but most of the cases that I'm dealing with, there's so much water being used on the outside of the house that once we do the math, it's like, oh, well, this is going to use all of our water, and now that's all water we're no longer using the cleanest water in the world, right? Because when we all just reflect that we use the cleanest water in the world, and this can be like the third time I say this word, so maybe this is another reason not to wake me up this early, but we use the cleanest water in the world to poop in, right? That is a little weird, like, sorry.
So it kind of, the first flush water, if it's got pollutants or dirt and stuff in it, can you use that water? What do you do with it?
So in an ideal system, it depends on the layout. In an ideal system, I use it on ornamentals. It's very clean water. It's just not super clean water. So my ideal is like if people have shrubbery, non-edible shrubbery, that's my favorite place to put it. That. Yeah. Does that? Yeah. That's at the Bayside. No, it's not called that anymore. No, sorry. The farm is now called Bayside Park Farm. The Bayside Park Farm, or Arcata Educational Farm. Sorry, I can't remember which one it changed to. What we use the first flush water there for is cleaning tools. So they keep it stored, and then they open it up to just clean off their tools, because it's definitely plenty clean for that.
So, two quick things. One, can you stay after for a few minutes for more questions? Because I think there are a few more to come, but I know you want to also stay. So, let's get that done, and let's say thank you for coming and speaking to us, and this is a donation we made in your name to the Chair Foundation. So,
Fantastic.
thank you.
Thank you.